everybody, Invisiblekatana here, and today I would like to discuss franchises that I believe need the perfect video game. So this is for franchises that, they might have some games here and there, and they might even be video game franchises that I feel, kind of just need like that one game that's just like, boom, here it is, and it's kind of just that worldwide phenomenon type of thing. But I wanted to kick things off because I want to talk about the Ninja Turtles. They have 100 million games. Now, I'll admit, Turtles in Time is my favorite Super Nintendo game. I've said that already. As usual, there's something that I'm going to repeat from other episodes. But Turtles in Time is my favorite Super Nintendo game. Shredder's Revenge, I think, might be my favorite Turtles game. Maybe after Turtles in Time. I think it's still, just that nostalgic little piece. Plus the soundtrack is 100% perfect. Look at my soundtrack episode. I talk about that there. But Turtles in Time, I absolutely love. And the Ninja Turtles in general have a buttload of video games. I mean, they had games, Turtles in Time is the fourth Ninja Turtles game. For anyone that didn't know that, we just, we don't go Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time. That's super effing long. It's Turtles in Time. So it's already the fourth game. And then you have video games based on every other version. I think the only version that might not have a video game will probably be Rise of the TMNT, because that unfortunately only got 2 seasons because everybody was crapping on it, but that show's effing amazing, and the animation is godlike. Definitely watch that. At least the first season, I know it's on Netflix, and so is the movie. For some odd reason, the second season is not, which is why I watched the movie out of order, and that made me mad because I just assumed that I saw the whole show. But check out the show. The animation is ridiculous. It's top tier. So I don't think that has a game, and I know Tales of the TMNT, or I should just say like the new TMNT movie that came out, and also Tales of the TMNT, which is a show. I know that they have a game that's coming up. So every version of the Turtles, not counting the live action, has a video game. And even the live action might have something in there. I'm sure there's a reference in some other video games to that, but they're not gonna make a Next Mutation video game, that's for sure. But Turtles have tons of video games, obviously, tons of everything really. But we need like that perfect Turtles game. And like I said, Shredder's Revenge, as of now, might be as close as we get to like the perfect Turtles game. But I think that there's potential, especially because the Turtles is well known for 2D. I think that could be considered like the perfect 2D version. At this point, I think Shredder's Revenge could be considered like the perfect 2D game. It's got amazing moves. It's got a ton of different characters. It's got, like the survival mode and stuff. The game is amazing. But we need like the perfect 3D game as well. And I don't know what to expect. We'll see what happens with this last Ronin game. I hope it's amazing. I truly hope it's like the perfect Ninja Turtles game. I don't know if that's even possible because of the story of the last Ronin. Like gameplay wise and everything, it could be like perfect. But like for me, the perfect Turtles game has to have all the guys in it, and not just their flashbacks, like sad, flashbacks. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm very excited for that. I'm sure it'll be amazing. But I think like the perfect Turtles game would have all 4 of the Turtles. It'll be kind of, prime Turtles. It'll have the Turtles in it. At this point, if you want to go full IDW, throw in the extra characters, like throw in everybody. So I think the Turtles definitely are a franchise that needs like that perfect game, because I feel like even when those games come out, the Turtles, Turtles is like one of my top 5 franchises in general. So for me, I'm all over the place. I'm like, yes, like give me more Turtles games. I absolutely love this stuff. I still have to get, I think it's Splinter Fate is the game that they had that was on like iOS and stuff, and then they remade it for consoles. So I still need to pick that up, but I heard that was actually pretty fun. So I'm excited to get that eventually. And, like I said, the last Ronin coming out, I'm definitely looking forward to that. I would love it. And I'm pretty sure it's Konami, if I'm not mistaken. I think Konami had the license up until like quite recently, until like the 2003 series or 2012 show. But I think they still had the license even when it was the 2003 series, because they made like 3 or 4 games out of that one. But I would love it if they remade those games as well. Dang, once again, synergy with other episodes. I didn't think about the Turtles games. Like really old games that I love that could get remastered. The TMNT, like 2003 series of games, that would be sweet to have those back. But the Turtles could use a perfect game. And jumping from the Turtles to another one of my favorite franchises. And this one, once again, you could say it had the perfect 2 games even, but it's Transformers. We had the War and Fall of Cybertron games, which once again need to come back. And also there was Transformers Devastation, which I think is excessively underrated because it was during that era when like Platinum Games was making a bunch of licensed stuff, so they made Transformers Devastation, which is amazing. And then after that they made, I think it was Turtles, it was TMNT, but I think it was like Mutants in Manhattan, that's what it was. And I skipped that because everybody said it was so crappy. I still wish that I picked it up at this point because now it's one of those delisted games because all of their games are delisted. So I never got to experience that game, but everybody said it was like, yeah, this kind of sucks, unfortunately. And that's why I never picked it up. And that really blows because once again, it's like they made Transformers, one of my favorite franchises. They gave it an amazing action game. As much as I love the War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron, this was like full on G1 style with the most ridiculous music ever. And then basically Bayonetta style combat. Like they literally put like the witch time dodge in there. If you dodge at the last minute, you can go into slow motion. So all of that stuff was in there and it was amazing and I love that game. Also, it ended on the cliffhanger. That made me mad. And it ends and obviously there's no sequel. So that's devastating. But that game's absolutely amazing and so are the Cybertron games. But I do believe that there's a chance that we could have another like perfect Transformers game. And I don't know what it would consist of. I don't know exactly what it would be. And that's when it's really tough because not Transformers, but for Ninja Turtles, it was easy to just be like, I think perfect Ninja Turtles game is Ninja Turtles in their prime. So it's all four brothers. You got Casey, you got April, you got Splinter, you obviously Shredder. You can even throw, if you make it like a big game, a long story, you can have everything. You throw in Shredder and then we leap to like the real crazy stuff. We get the Triceratons, all that stuff. I think that could consist in one solid Ninja Turtles game. When it comes to Transformers, it's so hard to tell now because it's like the Cybertron games are the top games as far as I'm concerned. Like those are especially because as a pair, those are the top two games. And I put Devastation at number 3 because those are just like, that's everything that you would need to know Transformers 100%. Like it's everything from the villains to the heroes, everything that happened on Cybertron. It's almost like the perfect introduction, honestly. And at one point, it was literally the new canon for all of Transformers were those two video games. I believe they've changed that since then, but you know how it is. So things just change. It's like, this is the new canon. And then, a little bit later, it's like, yeah, this is the new canon. Like, cool, new. But as of now, those are the top two Transformers games. But I think we can have more. I don't know if the perfect Transformers game is that again, or if we do kind of G1 style and it's like, hey, we put the Transformers on Earth. Like that's what we're most familiar with. And the thing is, it's the movies that really disrupt that because the movies will just be, the movies and they have to focus on the actual human actors and stuff like that. And it's like, you can just have Transformers. I mean, all you have to do is watch G1 Transformers. Like they're on Earth all the time and there's two effing people. Like they got like two buddies. Like it's two humans and that's about it. And then they add like a third and a fourth a little later on. Or maybe they swap them out because I think they got rid of the kid in the wheelchair. They didn't kill him, but I think eventually he kind of just wasn't in the show anymore. But like they can do Transformers on Earth and it'd still be perfect. I mean, heck, Transformers Prime is all the shows I think are great examples. It's just the movies that kind of mess it up where it's like, wow, you guys could focus more on the Transformers and you're right there. Like it would just be so much better. Bumblebee's a great example. Like it was a more personal story and it just worked. And I also thought Rise of the Beast was good. I was annoyed by the actual Beast portion of it because it was like it was a lot of disrespect to the actual like Beast Wars Transformers, and that really upset me because that's my G1. But I still really like that movie. A lot of people think that movie was trash, but I'm like, I don't know how you could see that. Like, I thought that movie was good. Personal opinion, obviously, but I think that there's more there that we could have for Transformers, and it's hard to say with that one. It's not as easy to be like, do we just do it on Cybertron again, or do we actually make the perfect Transformers game set on Earth and kind of do G1 style? So I would love to hear your thoughts on that if you're a Transformers fan, what the perfect setting would be, or maybe if you did both, if once again, with like TMNT where you do like a giant story, if you did that, I wouldn't hate it, but it would definitely be an interesting transition to see them go from Cybertron to Earth. I think it would be a really tough thing to pull off and have people play all Cybertron, all Transformers, everything looks robotic and cool, and then we come to Earth and it's like, it's Earth. So it's like, it would be a little tough for them to really pull that one off too well. They'd have to do like a time skip once you hit Earth. Like you got to do like a time skip and just be like, all right, boom, here, it's been like a year or something. And then that way you can kind of keep it going with like the flow of battle. But another franchise that I think needs the perfect game, and it kind of had it back in the day, is The Matrix. The Matrix Path of Neo was amazing. It had some issues, of course, it's a PS2 game. There's some issues somewhere in that game, but that game was amazing back in the day. Like Enter the Matrix was fun, And it was very cool because it was the first game I ever played that was like a companion piece to the actual film, where it's like, hey, if you do this, this lets you know what's happening, during this part of the movie and stuff. It was amazing at that point. So I thought that was super cool, and it was almost like getting deleted scenes, because they literally had live action cutscenes during some parts with the actors from the movie, and it was like, this is super cool. For instance, I'm sure no one knew this if you didn't play, Enter the Matrix, but it's revealed in Enter the Matrix that Trinity has a brother, and it's Ghost. So you guys who might remember, Ghost and Niobe was Jada Pinkett Smith, you know how it is right now. But her and her partner was Ghost. And Ghost is actually Trinity's brother in the Matrix. And they, of course, don't reference that in the films at all, but they reference it in the game, and it's actually kind of cool. So there's little stuff like that where it's like, oh, you actually get like bonus content to what's going on, things that are never said in the film. And this is like I said, once again, this is with the live action actors. They're doing cutscenes where these characters are talking to each other. And it's like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. Like, I've never experienced this before. So Into the Matrix was definitely cool for like that synergy between the film and the game, where you actually do stuff and they explain it in the movie. Like, yeah, they, destroyed the power plant or whatever. You do that in the game, where you destroy the power plant to let Neo basically get to the architect at the end of the Matrix Reloaded. And stuff like that. It was like, that was a huge deal back in the day. But that game itself it's a bit choppy. It was the first one, still fun to play, especially as the first one. And it had some really weird stuff. There was like a secret multiplayer mode where you could play co-op, you could play multiplayer against each other. Very weird. You put in some cheat codes, boom, you unlock like a secret multiplayer mode. Super odd, but also very fun. And then it was a ways later. It was after the third movie came out, and even a couple years after that. And then they made Matrix: The Path of Neo. And that game was so cool. It was unbelievably cool. Like, for people that never played it, it was obviously the Path of Neo. So you actually play as Neo this time, because in Enter the Matrix, you only play as Ghost and Niobe. In Path of Neo, you play as Neo through all three films. And it's super effing cool. And the way that they do that, and another thing that they do, like, if there's one thing that they did with those games, it was always something unique, much like the Matrix itself. They always did something that was just very different. Like, you have a game that's encompassing 3 straight films, and then they let you change stuff around. Like, when you play the game, you go through the first movie, you don't actually have to get captured, like how Neo actually gets caught by the agents. You can escape. If you actually do it right, they made it where you can just escape, and then you just get on the motorcycle with Trinity and you just leave. Like, you can skip that whole section of the actual film where he gets captured and then he wakes up and all that stuff. You skip over all that, where they like pull the thing out of his stomach. None of that happens. If you escape, you just actually escape, and then they just jump right to the conversation. And so there's little stuff like that where you can change things around. Of course, they made some of the moments more action heavy because obviously you're playing it. And then there's just like a bunch of filler things where you actually choose missions and stuff that you can do. There's a moment where you fight giant ants, don't ask. But there's some stuff that you do in that game that's really ridiculous, but it's super fun. And you just whoop on people as Neo. And then you unlock moves and you do crazy things and you go through the Matrix, and there's just all sorts of weird stuff. Obviously you fight like the giant battles, you fight Smith in the subways, and Reloaded, where you fight all the different versions of Smith and stuff like that. It's a really fun game. And then, like I said, they do a lot of padding where they just throw in a bunch of random stuff. Like, you spend a lot of time running around like the hallway of doors where you can just open doors to anywhere. You run all over that place. I think you end up like, I don't think it's the White House, but I think it's where Congress is held. It's some area in the government where they send you, and you're just running around, and you can just grab like a flagpole and just start fighting a bunch of Agent Smiths with like the American flag, which is just hilarious. But I love that game back in the day, and I think if they remade it, even though we're kind of we're not as far from the Matrix because we got Resurrections, unfortunately, but even though we're not too far from the Matrix, they do not need to include that at all. If they just redid The Path of Neo and just did the first 3 movies again, and this is like built from the ground up. This isn't like, oh, we're doing a remaster. This is just like remaking the whole game and like doing it brand new. I think that could be amazing. I think The Matrix could have like the perfect game. And if anything, I mean, as famous as The Matrix is, at this point, that was a film that came out, it was in '99 if I'm not mistaken. like, there are a lot of people that have not watched The Matrix at this point. You know, like if you weren't there, you probably weren't watching The Matrix. You're probably not like me, where you watch The Matrix Reloaded like 100 million times. Personally, that's my favorite one. I know everybody hates it. It was like it went downhill after the first movie. I love The Matrix Reloaded, maybe because I just like, you know, crazy action movies, and I think the action was amped up. So, I can be totally honest about that. But as a kid, I was like, Matrix Reloaded is actually my favorite one out of the trilogy. Obviously, it goes 2, 1, then 3, but still, the second one is personally my favorite movie. So, I think they could redo it, and you go through and have fun with that. And it's a weird franchise to pick from because it's so old. Obviously, not, Resurrections was more recent, but overall, the franchise is fairly old, and they don't really do much. I mean, you get the movies, and that's about it. And they had those 2 games. Animatrix is God tier. Watch the Animatrix, and that's about it. And then it's all said and done. There was Matrix Online for a minute, and then, that's gone now. But I think that would be really good. I think the Matrix could use like a perfect video game, and it would actually work really well. Like it's the game that, the movie that did, bullet time and all that stuff. Like Max Payne came out before the Matrix did, oddly enough. A lot of people might not realize that, but Max Payne did come out before the Matrix, so they had bullet time and slow motion, but the Matrix added like actual martial arts to the slow motion. It was a lot. It wasn't just like, slow motion gunplay. It was like wire fu, like jumping around and running on walls and kicking people. It wasn't just shooting people while you're running, jump kicks and kick people and jump over buildings, all that cool stuff. That game could be remade, or they could just make a brand new game if they, wanted to include Resurrections. They could go through and actually make a perfect game for the Matrix, and it would be amazing just from the action alone, because they've already kind of done it in 2 games, and the movies are bred from martial arts action. Like that's like the bread and butter is like obviously classic martial arts. So they could totally do it, and it would be amazing. But I highly doubt that'll ever happen. But it was definitely worth mentioning because they've already had 2 games that I really loved back in the day, and I think the Matrix could definitely pull it off. But another franchise that I think could have the perfect game, like you just peak, if you will. And this is gonna sound crazy, but it's Power Rangers. It's Power Rangers. I know we've had some good games. I know there's the Rita Rewind game that came out okay. It ended up being like pretty cool, but I know there's some stuff there that people didn't like. And before that, we had the Battle for the Grid, which implemented a lot of the comic book stuff. And we've also had a bunch of other, not so great Power Rangers games. But the Power Rangers, and obviously this is one of those things, the scope of Power Rangers is so huge, I couldn't possibly tell you how this makes sense or what the perfect version of a Power Rangers game would be, because to everyone, it would probably just end up being like their favorite Power Rangers. Like, is the perfect Power Rangers game a Time Force game? Probably not. But if it was Time Force, I'd be happy. I love Time Force. That's my favorite one, Time Force. Time Force. Quantum Ranger is sick, and that's him outside the costume. By the way, for anyone that didn't know this, there's like a lot of crossover between Power Rangers and Devil May Cry. I won't go into that, but just look that up if you're interested in either of those things. Just look into that. But the Quantum Ranger from Time Force is Virgil. So there you go. But I always thought that the Power Rangers, obviously, I love the franchise. It's been going on forever. Well, I'm not like super duper deep into it, but I'm deep enough into the franchise to know like we don't know what's happening right now. I know that much. So, I like my ears to the ground at least a little bit when it comes to, the news for Power Rangers. So I know things are a little wonky, and I hope they kind of start to balance out a bit and things just work out okay. But overall, and this is once again a part of some of the issues, I don't think it's really going to happen because they've never even attempted to really make a game like this. But I think they could really do a cool, like, story-driven Power Rangers game. And I know that might sound crazy if you're not a Power Rangers fan, but trust me, they could do some deep stuff, especially if you go comment, like, that's kind of the usual thing where it's like, just like Transformers, if you're familiar with just the movies or, only the shows when it comes to Power Rangers, it's like, okay, yeah, there's some cool stuff here and there. And if you've been off of it for a long time, it's like, yeah, a cheesy kid show. You might not even know it's based off of a Japanese show. But they got some serious stuff going on when it comes to the comic books. And if they wanted to do it, which is what they did for Battle of the Grid, which is just a fighting game, but it has a story mode to it and stuff, and that's, a lot of comic things. They could do a game like that and just go all in. Like if they do like the, Well, I guess if you, I'm not even sure where you could start, but I guess you would start with the Boom comics, like the initial run, and just go from there. Maybe you could make a couple of games based off of like the biggest arcs, within the comics. I think they could do some really cool stuff there, because there's a lot of stuff where it's like, hey, it's for the fans that grew up with it. A lot of that, involves like alternate Mighty Morphin and all that. So it'll kind of be like, hey, here's the original, plus you got newer people, plus you got alternate people. All sorts of stuff happens, in those comic books, because they do like, the multiverse, of course. But they could do a really good Power Rangers game, and it could be perfect. Like, genuinely, it would be very mature, because there's some stuff, once again, some stuff that happens. It could be very mature. I don't know if it would end up being like, rated M for mature or anything like that. I'm sure they could find a way to skirt the line and hit a T for teen, but they could do some really great stuff with that. And I genuinely believe that it might, like, once again, I feel like if you're not a Power Rangers fan, it might just sound crazy if you don't really know any of the stuff with the comics. Hey, this would never happen on Earth, but they could do a Power Rangers Ninja Turtles crossover video game. It would never happen. Even though it's happened in the comics, they would never do it. It's just like the Batman Ninja Turtles thing. They would never make that into a video game. But my God, would that be amazing. That's what we need. We need crossover games. Maybe that'll be a video later. We'll talk about that some other time. But definitely Power Rangers, I think, could have an amazing, perfect video game. And I think my selection probably would be if, we do it based on the comic books. I think that's where it would be a good way to kind of get everybody in, because it would still be, like I said, T for teen. You can still have the kids get in, and then, people like me who were watching, back in the day, it's like, hey, you get like the more mature version as well. So you kind of encompass all of it, and then it just, boom, perfect game. Martial arts action, Megazords, all that cool stuff. I think it could definitely work. But I think I'll end things there. I think hope for the future, even though it's a very slim chance, especially with what's going on in general with Power Rangers right now. Very, very slim chance that would ever happen. But I would love a great Power Rangers game. We already have some amazing Turtles and Transformers games, but they could use some others. They could use like that perfect thing. And once again, Matrix, there's no way that's ever gonna happen. But Path of Neo was great. They could do it again. Just throwing that out there. But I would love to know what franchises you guys think need the perfect game. I didn't end up touching on any actual video game franchises. I guess you could count Turtles and Transformers because they have so many games. But I would love to know, like, what franchise do you guys think needs like the perfect game? Whether it is, movies. Obviously, I spent more time talking about things that don't have like that definitive game. They might have a couple in here and there, but things that I would love to see come back. What franchises would you guys like to see with like the perfect franchise? Like I said, movie, video games already, what franchise just doesn't have like that perfect game that you think would bring everybody in yet? We'll love to know your thoughts. Like I said, I know I spent all my time talking about like the cartoons I grew up with. So that's kind of where I ended up landing on this conversation. But there's definitely a ton out there. As always, I'm sure there's going to be something I reference in a future episode, and I'll be like, dang, I should have mentioned that for perfect games. So that's almost guaranteed to happen. But I would love to know your thoughts. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.